Among its forests, seas, and plains, Europe's wilderness is home to some of the continent's rarest and most endangered species. This series will take you to some of its remotest corners to show you its incredible diversity. A fearless hunter and one of Europe's least understood animals, the wolverine roams around the continent's northern wilderness. Its territory extends from the forests of Finland to the mountains of Norway. But the key question is whether it will be able to survive and compete in the wild as our winters get warmer. The Taiga, the world's largest uninterrupted forest region. Spruce trees and pines cover the landscape like a soft carpet. The endless green here is only occasionally broken up by lakes and swamps. This uninhabited wilderness makes for a perfect habitat for wolverines. Restless and curious, they follow their fine-tuned noses as they endlessly explore their territory. Their strength and aggression mean they often pick fights with other predators, irrespective of size. Even so, they mostly eat what others have left. This scavenger relies on wolf and bear prey to survive. They eat everything and anything, and hoard food for the winter. Wolverines are the largest representatives of the marten family in Europe. A male can weigh up to 30 kilograms. To find food, they rely almost exclusively on their keen sense of smell. The first snow in Finland comes in autumn. The winters here last 5 long months. With the snow, the luminous, frosty beauty of the taiga emerges. In the sparsely populated no man's land where Finland borders Russia, the wolverine revels in unspoiled, extensive nature. Their thick fur and broad paws means they are ideally equipped for the coldest months of the year. Kari Kampainen, a filmmaker, has made his home here in order to be near this shy predator. The best chances of seeing them are in winter.
It's always great when the first snow comes and you can see their tracks again, because they tell you a lot. In summer, we barely know where the wolverines hang out, but the snow lets us in on the secret.
Today, he's in luck. He spots a trail.
A small wolverine has come through here. The paw print is very small. If it was fully grown, the print would be a lot bigger. Like this. If the tracks are this small, it means it was born this year. For a nature photographer, it is always a great moment when we find tracks. It means that nature is still alive here, and that the forest is still alive.
Kari makes a quick decision. He's going to try to film the wolverines today. He has been making nature films for 30 years and knows the best ways to tempt them towards him. The Kainuu region is on the northern edge of Finland's Lake District and directly borders Lapland. The lake forms a white maze here in winter, in the middle of a dense pine forest. Kari is the only human inhabitant from miles around here. Whenever he films the wolverines, he sets up the perfect backdrop, with an elk hide and antlers as his props. Despite many years of experience, he never knows if a wolverine will come.
At this time of year, it really isn't easy, as we only get 5 hours of daylight a day. But if I'm lucky, an animal will come. At the moment, the wolverines are most active at dusk or at night, which makes it even more difficult.
Kari does not give up. Kainuu's eastern stretches are well known for their bears. The border region to Russia is full of predators. The snow is alive with tracks which can lead the wolverines to their nutritious prey. In the icy north, every animal battles the harsh conditions with whatever means they have available. There are competitors everywhere. Wolverines hunt small rodents and ground-nesting birds. In winter, the conditions are perfect for them. Alongside these small animals, wolverines also eat reindeer. Europe's only domesticated deer are bred across the north of Scandinavia. In Finland, 200,000 of these semi-wild animals roam around the forests. Leo Juntunen is a reindeer breeder with 40 years' experience. He has lived his entire life in Suomussalmi in the north of the Kainuu region. For him, the wolverines and other predators here are a constant threat to his herd.
Hello, all.
He counts his herd regularly to check whether any have fallen victim to the wolverines.
We are here to tag the reindeer here in the enclosure. We look at who the youngsters belong to, tag them, and then transport them all home. Predators are our archenemy. For the last few years, there have been simply too many. It is no longer possible to talk about normal reindeer breeding here. We feed the predators with reindeer. At least, that's how it seems.
The conflict around predators in the breeding grounds is getting more intense. It is not only wolverines who hunt the reindeer. There are wolves and lynx too. If breeders can prove that one of their herd has been picked off, they get compensation from the state. Leo Juntunen fits some of his herd with collars, which emit a GPS signal. The collars are called death knells.
Looks like this reindeer is getting a death knell around its neck. If it gets killed, we will be able to find it. Once it has been fitted, it will stay on for as long as the animal is alive.
Leo Juntunen has invested in these collars to be able to locate and identify his herd after a predator attack.
Now we will just count the rest. We mark them with this knife, and this means we know whose are whose a month or so down the line. This female is mine.
The question of which hunter has killed a reindeer often depends on the snow conditions.
It always depends on the weather. If we have 60 to 80 centimeters of snow, wolverines have an advantage.
Their broad paws act like snowshoes, stopping them sinking into the snow when they creep up on their prey. Reindeers, by contrast, only make slow progress through the snow, leaving the wolverine with ideal hunting conditions. A lot of reindeer breeders would like to be able to hunt their herd's predators. Hunting, however, is banned nowadays, as there are only around 200 wolverines in Finland. They love the huge expanses of space they have here. They live alone and move around constantly, ideally through deep snow. It used to be legal to hunt wolverines. This nearly led to their extinction in Finland. Hunting was banned in the 1980s, and since then, the population has gradually begun to recover. Clément Massé studies the wolverine's eating habits. By contrast to other predators, relatively little is known about wolverines. This drives Clément on to learn more. The dissection of some wolverines in the zoological collection of Oulu University helps him to develop his findings.
Of course, I'd love to work with real wolverines in the wild. But nowadays, scientists like me use passive methods. We take samples from museums or from traps in nature, which are able to extract small amounts of hair. That's the best way to study wolverines without disturbing them.
Hunted specimens are valuable research objects.
So here we have a male, a female, and a youngster. They were hunted in 1962 and 1964, and that is all I know about them at the moment.
Clément Massé wants to take hair samples from these animals to see what they ate before they died. Amazingly, this information is still stored in the hair almost 60 years after their death.
Wolverines like these probably mostly eat reindeer and elk. They mostly scavenge in the winter. They pick the carcasses which wolves, lynxes, and bears have left behind. But they do also hunt for themselves sometimes. By analyzing stable isotopes, we can say in precisely what ratio their food was made up and what they ate in the last 7 months of their life. We get a very complete picture.
In the past, people majorly overestimated what proportion of wolverine's prey was made up by large mammals.
They have this image of these ferocious predators, but that might not be the case. When we studied the bear's nutritional regime, we established they mainly eat plants and berries. It might be the same story with wolverines. This is what I'm trying to find out. If so, we can maybe improve their image somewhat.
Surviving a winter this far north is not easy. Only the strongest make it. Wolverines need to develop dependable tricks to be able to stave off hunger for the whole time. Its sense of smell can reveal its feed at great distances, even through a thick snowdrift. They are constantly on the hunt for food, either to eat immediately or store up for later. In winter, their habitat also operates as a handy fridge, with no costs attached. The Latin name gulo gulo means glutton, but they don't actually eat more than other animals. They are, however, particularly strong and aggressive for their size, but they depend on other predators for their survival. Anything left from a hunt provides them with food. Wolverines have exceptionally powerful jaws, and that wins it respect at the top of the food chain. Despite their diminutive stature, they can bring down a young elk, and they are able to bite through bones to get at the bone marrow in the middle. Finland's Nord-Savo region is the southernmost region where wolverines are found. It is known for its landscape pockmarked by lakes and canals. Ancient trees stretch right down to the water's edge. Finland is the country with the most forest in Europe. Almost 3/4 of its surface area is covered by trees. The cones, needles, and buds of trees are the core component of many animals' diets. And wolverines are no exception. They are perfectly adapted to life in the forest. As able climbers, they can pursue their prey into the tree canopy, and their powerful claws mean they are safe even at major heights. From up here, they can also take in the view. Leo Korhonen works for the Institute of Natural Resources, which is collaborating with Oulu University on their research into wolverine populations using hair samples. To tempt a wolverine into a hair trap, you need a wealth of knowledge and the ability to see things from their perspective.
Like lots of other predators, wolverines often follow the same tracks. The reason why we are here is that one of these tracks is nearby, and the wolverines will be able to smell things here with their excellent sense of smell.
The wolverines are lured into the trap using bait. Everything needs to be planned to perfection.
The tree trunk needs to be at such an angle that the wolverine has to climb to get to the bait. That is not a problem for them. They love climbing. Wolverines are also very curious and thorough. They will definitely find the bait on this trunk.
Leo Korhonen has lived surrounded by the natural world of Nord-Savo for 30 years. His work with wild animals here has allowed him to come up with a trap mechanism specifically designed for wolverines. The bait is behind a narrow entrance.
The traps are made using bits of metal brushes. The brush hairs catch hair easily.
The samples of hair that Leo collects here will provide valuable information about the wolverine's nutrition and their genetic makeup. Leo uses a hare killed out on the roads as bait.
The next thing I will do is spray the tree with a scent, which will get the wolverine's interest. They smell it and think that seems interesting. The smell should tempt them to the bait.
A motion-detecting camera will signal that a wolverine is approaching the trap.
The first thing it will smell will be the trap. It will spot something is up there, that there is something new. Initially, it'll just circle the spot at a radius of about 10 meters. It normally won't enter the trap on their first trip, but just take a quick look. But it will remember it later. It remembers that there was something interesting here, and then they come back. On the second or third trip, it will go into the trap. It will take the bait too and eat it.
There is hardly any other part of Europe as sparsely populated as Finland. Ideal conditions for the wolverine because they need a lot of space. Wolverines are territorial animals. They inhabit huge swaths of territory, which they mark with their scent. They are tireless explorers, always on the move. In a single night, they can cover distances of up to 45 kilometers. So their territory needs to be big. A male's can cover 2,000 square kilometers and may overlap with those of a few females. The females live on significantly smaller plots. Their territory is never much bigger than 500 square kilometers. Incursions by animals of the same sex are not tolerated. With the first snow, preparations for winter begin. In Kainu, Kari Kempanen has got everything ready to attract the local wolverines to him. The elk hide and antlers will allow him to capture them in a natural setting.
Elk meat is the main source of food for wolves, and they will sometimes eat a whole animal. But the wolverines always get something, either some meat or the bones.
Other large predators are simultaneously friend and foe to wolverines. They compete for prey, but live from the same resources. A whole pack of wolves can be particularly dangerous for a wolverine. Eat or be eaten, the grim reality of life in the wild. If a predator has killed an animal, they will carefully defend it from others. Competition is fierce.
Around here, it is mainly bears which can become a problem if you want to film the wolverines. The bears come along and try to eat everything without leaving anything for the wolverines. But in winter, the bears hibernate, and that means the wolverines can get on with eating in peace.
Years of experience have taught Kari what wolverines most enjoy eating: salmon. He always attracts the same animals and can recognize them thanks to their fur.
There are wolverines which have 2 spots on their chests, but some have a lot more. It looks like a pearl necklace. Some have a very dark, almost black head, and others have yellow stripes on the side. If you look a bit closer, you'll see how different they all are.
Wolverines are among the rarest animals in Finland. Years of patience and dedication are required to get good images. Kari needs to hide so the wolverines don't get startled. Waiting for wolverines has been a passion of Kari's since childhood.
When I was a child, I loved listening to the reindeer breeders talking about these magical, large predators. They hated them and would have liked to have killed them all. Even back then, I wanted to see these magical animals and record them on camera.
In neighboring Norway, water dominates the landscape. The Ice Age left behind a network of mountains, fjords, and lakes here. The Scandinavian mountains are Europe's longest mountain range and follow Norway's coast from north to south through the whole country. Wolverines used to live all over Norway, from the lush forests to the highest mountain peaks. Intensive hunting changed that. They have completely died out near sea level and now only survive in the mountains. For the last few years, they have been making their way back to the forests of the south. In Evenstad, researchers are investigating how the wolverines are adapting after returning to this habitat. Barbara Zimmerman is professor for applied ecology. She studies how the wolverines move around the forest and how they share their territory with the wolves here. The wolverines have been fitted with GPS collars so she can track their movements. The forests which make up the wolverine's habitat here are broken up with moors and swamps. It is a unique ecosystem full of lush vegetation. Both in the water and on the banks, it teems with life. Dwarf shrubs and many berry species thrive in the nutritious soil. The wolverine does not pass up this delicious meat-free food, but they mainly lie in wait for the birds who build their nests in the dense undergrowth. By retreating deep into the forest, wolverines don't make life easy for the scientists researching them.
We catch wolverines because we want to know more about their ecology, and especially about those animals who have come back into the forests here. We simply don't know much about their feeding habits.
Today, they want to check one of their traps. Even though it had not been fully set, there is a surprise for them.
What we can see here is that a wolverine has tried to gnaw its way into the trap from the outside. Somehow, it has managed to bite through the wood. It also looks like he has tried to gnaw at the bottom of the lid, either from inside the trap or from here on the edge.
This is a very special wolverine here who we call Brave Peppy, because it is a female who always comes to the traps. She comes here nearly every year. She jumps in, gets tagged by us, and gets a new collar. And a few days later, she comes back. She appears to like the traps. And then we just have to let her go.
Was it Peppy who gnawed away at this trap? Barbara and Christopher activate the alarm system, which allows them to put the trap back into use. Everything needs to work perfectly. As soon as the wolverine takes the bait and the trap shuts, Christopher gets a text. This means the animals spend the minimum possible time in captivity. Who will get the bait from the trap this time? The camera records all the trap's visitors, but it will take some time to show results. The courageous Peppy has lived in her territory for a long time. Wolverine females are a bit smaller than their male counterparts. Their main job is to look after the young. The males mate with several females a year and then move on. This year, Peppy has had 2 babies. By autumn, both of them are already fairly big. It won't be long before they leave Peppy and start the hunt for their own territory. Peppy is already looking for a place to spend the winter. She needs to find a crack in the rocks or build herself a hole in the snow where she can give birth. Wolverines mate at the beginning of the year. The fertilized egg develops to a certain stage where it is held for several months until winter. They then give birth in February or March. When the kits are born, they are blind and weigh around 100 grams. Barbara and Christopher have checked the alarm system, and the trap can be put back into action. Their monitoring here has revealed that the wolverine population in Norway is stable. Climate change, however, poses new problems for their survival in the future. Wolverines are well adapted to the cold winters up in the far north. They give birth in hovels in the snow and are effective hunters even in deep snow. If the winters get shorter and the snow gets less deep, They will lose these advantages and have to compete more directly with other predators. Climate change is already very evident in the far north and near the Arctic, and can be seen in Norway too. Glaciers have seen dramatic reductions in size in the last few decades. Every year in Finland, an attempt is made to estimate the size of the wolverine population using all the scientific data available. This number is then used by the government to issue a select number of hunting licenses in order to help reduce the conflict with the reindeer breeders. Leo Juntunen is hopeful to get one of the 8 licenses issued by the Finnish government this year. He mainly uses his hunting dogs during the annual autumnal elk hunt, an event that takes place across Scandinavia. This season also suits the wolverines in the forest very well, as they find abundant food among the bits the hunters leave behind. Juntunen uses the most up-to-date technology to supervise his reindeer. He checks their position every day. As long as they are moving, all is well.
They seem to be on the move a lot. There are a couple of females there in Kuusamo. The rest of them are in the 20 kilometers or so around here. If an animal travels an unusually long distance, it often means they have been attacked by a predator. There are a lot of wolverines on the Russian border. There used to be a lot of reindeer there in winter too, in Shelkonen. But if a reindeer heads in that direction now, you can be sure it will be killed by the end of winter.
Hopefully, his reindeer won't have their peace disturbed by a wolverine tonight, and will make it to morning. The days are getting shorter, and the nights longer. In Scandinavia, that can mean only one thing: perfect conditions to see the northern lights. While the sky is lit up by these majestic lights, a wolverine perks up. They are mainly nocturnal in their habits. This one is interested in a particular track. It's good news for Leo Kohonen. A wolverine visited his trap last night. Did it all work? Did the wolverine take the right route to the bait? He downloads the images from the camera. They can often show him which wolverine was in the trap.
I know quite a few wolverines here, but we don't always get the same animals near the trap. This one's fur has very few distinctive features, so I cannot identify him. It's therefore important we have some hair in the trap. If the bait has been taken, it is a good indication that a wolverine was here.
And he has left some of his hair on the metal brushes.
Wolverine fur has two layers. There's a thick, warming undercoat, which is made of small hairs. These are the small hairs here. Then there are the longer hairs from the upper coat. They're better for doing DNA analysis. These long ones here are from there.
The hair provides information about their diet and also important genetic data. It forms the basis for lots of research into wolverine populations and their development. In Finland, there are two genetically distinct populations, the Scandinavian and the Karelian, the latter of which is also found in Russia. It is important that the two populations mix in order to improve genetic diversity in the populations and ensure the wolverine's survival. Clément Massé works together with the Institute for Natural Resources and analyzes hair samples from Finnish forests in his research. The hairs first need to be washed and prepared.
When we analyze stable isotopes to find out what they have eaten, we use the principle, you are what you eat. So, if a wolverine has been eating a lot of reindeer, the isotope levels in him will be the same as in the reindeer.
Wolverine hair grows about 1 centimeter per month. The long hairs from the upper coat can store information about the animal's diet during the last 7 months. Clément hopes his research will be able to contribute to the protection of wolverine habitats in Finland.
By trying to find out more about what they eat and in what season, we will be able to know a bit more about what they need. Then we can come up with conservation policies, which are based on these discoveries about the ecology and biology of the wolverines.
In winter, the sun in Kainuu starts going down in the early afternoon. Kari Kampainen attracts the wolverines to his house so he can observe them at any time of day or night. An elk carcass acts as his lure. Kari regularly checks the fresh tracks in the snow.
A wolverine was here the day before yesterday. Its tracks have now been covered by fresh snow. I can't see any new tracks from last night. They don't necessarily come every day. Sometimes days will pass without a visit.
Kari wants to leave the bait out for a little longer. The wolverines are curious, but will they come up to the house? Kari is prepared for all eventualities.
This artificial light means I can film at night too. I have never used it though, so I need to test it now.
In his many years making nature documentaries, Kari has learned that you can attract some animals with their calls, but it is not so easy with wolverines.
Wolverines barely produce any noise at all, except during the mating period in summer and when the mothers want to get rid of their youngsters, or indeed when the young ones are playing. The noises they make then are a bit like this. But that's it.
Calls won't speed things up, but sooner or later their sense of smell will hopefully guide them into his garden. Winter in the Finnish Taiga is a time of icy frosts. The temperature drops below -20, and all the trees are encased in frost. Finding food becomes tougher for the reindeer. But the thick snow is a bonus for the wolverine. It creeps up silently. And attacks at exactly the right moment. Leo Juntunen has received an alarm signal. One of his reindeer's GPS signals has not moved for 4 hours. There is little doubt that it has been a victim of a predator. Was it a wolverine? Using a GPS radar, he is setting off to find the carcass. First, though, he needs to set the device up.
If you hunt around with a radar for a while, you get a pretty good idea of where the carcass is.
Once he starts receiving signals, Leo sets off. Deep into the forest. Here between the trees, wolverines can sneak up on their prey very effectively. The search is successful.
Quite a lot happened to this one. They put up a decent fight. The killing began here. The reindeer did not give up immediately. You can see the traces of the fight here. There's reindeer hair and blood everywhere.
Juntunen has seen a lot of dead reindeer in his time. The tracks here reveal what was responsible for this one's death. This time, it was a pack of wolves which got it.
Here's the death knell. The reindeer only had it for a week. The wolves ate it here. They just left the hide. This is the fate of many reindeer. Lynxes, wolves, and wolverines are the animals which can kill reindeer. Of course, they need to eat or they would die. It is not their fault that there are so many of them and they are killing all the reindeer.
The cover of darkness makes their hunting raids safer. They rely on their noses, even at night and in deep snow. Kari hopes his bait will attract a wolverine. The tension is mounting.
Of course, the moment one arrives, you stop freezing, your tiredness disappears, and you become really tense all of a sudden. There it is. There it is. And then you have to make sure you get it. It's a sudden adrenaline rush when the wolverine arrives.
And then, at last, Kari's patience is rewarded. A wolverine emerges from the shadows into the spotlight. The wolverine is one of Europe's least understood animals. They are shy. Their population is slowly recovering after being intensively hunted in the past. Climate change presents new challenges for this plucky loner in the wilderness. Less snowfall will reduce their competitive advantage when hunting. Wolverines will need to develop new strategies to ensure their survival in the competitive world of the top of the food chain. For them to survive in Northern Europe's forests and mountains, we need to continue to protect them and their habitats.